Hey, Victoria. Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, Kevin.
So it's being recorded?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, good evening, folks. We have a quorum present. Time is 6 o'clock, so I will call the meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission to order. Before we go, I will quickly read the governor's order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2020 order extending the March 12th, 2020 order suspending, I'm sorry, that was 2021 of June 16th, 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people who may gather in any one place. This meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website or YouTube channel an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay, that being said, we have quite a few notice of intent public hearings tonight. So do we have the applicant here for the first agenda item? 0 rear and 5 Costa Drive.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, this is Hamilton Carrier.
Hi, Hamilton. How are you?
Doing well, Kevin. With me, I have
Good.
Greg Dixon, as well as Rebecca Stanley from BRI.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Greg and Rebecca. So I will call the public hearing back to order. This again is a public hearing and for 0 rear and 5 Costa Drive, proposed ground-mounted solar array. Folks that want to follow along, you can go to the town's website, freetownma.gov. You can click on the box that says boards and committees. You can then click on Conservation Commission, and on the right-hand side, you will see current Conservation Commission filings or Conservation Commission current filings. Click on that, and then you can follow along with us relative to plans and any other materials that we may be discussing tonight. If you do have any questions or what have you, please just raise your hand or push the button to raise your hand, and Victoria, just keep an eye out for that. And if I do call and you just politely state your name, and you feel free to ask questions through the chair, but they will be answered by the applicant. And that's going to hold true for all of our public hearings tonight. So, all right, that being said, do we have Maria here from Environmental Partners Group?
Hi, Kevin. It's Maria. I'm here.
Hi, Maria. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yep, no
Okay,
problem.
so why don't we let the folks from Ironwood Renewables make their presentation or whatever information they have to give us tonight.
Yeah, sure. I can start out. My name is Greg Dixon. I'm the engineer on the project. I think a lot of you will remember we were back in front of the board probably the end of last year. We went through a bunch of changes, mostly having to do with stormwater, as well as some revisions with environmental partners in order to meet all of their requests and meet everything that they've asked us to do on the project. The overall look of the project really has not changed from what we had before. The same size, DC, AC size, and pretty much the same amount of clearing and total disturbance and impervious acreage and area within the fence, pretty much everything has stayed the same. It's mostly just been the nuts and bolts that we've been pushing around with where the road goes and how the stormwater is treated. I guess kind of the biggest change you'll see is sort of on the west side of the railroad tracks. The roadway originally went to the north of the project, but to get away from the environmental wetlands and the zone A north, we located the road pretty close to where the existing sort of there's a trail that kind of runs through the property now. So we tried to mimic that as much as possible while still being able to make all the stormwater work. So the other thing that last time we met, we discussed is the 20-foot buffer wherever we could. And so we did add those notes that we discussed about clearing and leaving as much of the lower vegetation as well as sort of topping some of the trees, leaving some of those upright stumps in order to give wildlife and other animals and insects places to work around the array. I think that's kind of the bulk of the changes. Like I said, when you look at the paper, it doesn't look like a whole lot has changed, but it's kind of more just the calculations and how stormwater is being treated on site, which we are trying to meet as high of a bar as I think we can. All storms for all the watersheds on site have been decreased using 1 infiltration basin and 3 dry basins on the site. We also did some surveying on site as well as some test pits to determine seasonal high groundwater and the soil textures. So I think that would pretty much wrap up my spiel. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments from the board.
Excellent, thank you. And again, I appreciate the fact that you folks understand we don't have a conservation agent, so most of, EPG does act a lot of times as our agent and looking out for our best interest. So I do appreciate you working with them to get a better project, I think, for everybody. Maria, I've gone through some of the items, and it looks like most of them are closed out. Where do we stand?
Yeah, Maria Perotti from Environmental Partners. We have closed, well, Krebs and Lansing has closed out all of the open items from our second round review. We did sort of an email summary for the third response. And there were just a handful of items that we recommend the board vote or the commission vote on for as conditions of approval related to the Massachusetts stormwater standards, in particular standards 8, 9, and 10. And that's just sort of like the final documentation for the stormwater pollution prevention plan, post-construction operations and maintenance plan, a condition for the applicant to submit the O&M reports in accordance with the town's MS4 permit, and then providing the illicit discharge statement.
Okay, and you recommend those all be conditions. So folks on the other side, do you take exception to any of those, or do you have any comments relative to that?
No, we agreed with all of those and are fine with all those as conditions.
Excellent, thank you. Maria, have you sent that last peer review to us?
Yep, I submitted this to Victoria on Friday, March 25th. I think she was sending it out to the commission.
Yep. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we had it. Okay. So Maria, in your estimation, other than just conditioning those things, everything else has been closed out? Correct.
Yep, we did a full stormwater review, and the applicant addressed all of our other comments.
Excellent. All right. Does anybody from the public have any questions, comments, or concerns? No. Okay, any board member have any questions, comments, or concerns?
I'm good, Kevin.
Excellent, thank you. If I,
I'm all set.
that being said, excellent, thank you, Margaret. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion's made and supported to close the public hearing. Any further conversation or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan,
Aye.
Margaret French,
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Keith Mello with us?
He is now.
No.
No, okay, then Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. Okay, again, folks, thanks for going through the peer review. Like I said, I think at the end of the day, it's a better project and better product for the town of Freetown. And it keeps everybody in compliance, so I appreciate that. And that being said, I know, Maria, you mentioned the conditions. We have them on file with our office. So I would entertain a motion that we approve the plans as submitted, and then for the notice of intent that was filed with the aforementioned conditions as supplied by Environmental Partners Group.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion is made and supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Do appreciate it. So we'll have some work to get through planning board, I imagine, right?
Yep, we will
Yes,
see you
we'll see you
tomorrow.
tomorrow evening.
You'll see us tomorrow evening. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again very much, and appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Thanks,
for the time.
Kevin. Appreciate it.
All right. Yep. Sure thing. Bye-bye now. All right. Next on our agenda, we have a continued notice of intent that I will call back to order. This is for 67 Chase Road in East Freetown. The applicant is Alan Alves, TJA Clean Energy. The owner is Chipaway Corporation. The representative is Andy Sargent from ET Engineering. I think it may in fact be a zoo tonight. And the scope of work is solar panel installation and related infrastructure work. So again, this is a public hearing, folks. You want to follow along, go to the website, Concom, under Boards and Committees, Conservation Commission, and the Conservation Commission current filings, and you'll find the documents and plan set there. So we have a zoo here tonight.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
I just had to unmute myself. I must be advancing in technology here now that I know how to
Yeah, yeah. Just don't mute it halfway through a zoo.
Okay.
Just for the record, a zoo, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Azwe Tuniru. I'm filling in Andy Sargent. I had to be at another meeting in the town of Hanson. I am a registered professional engineer and registered professional land surveyor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. My office, ET Engineering Enterprises, Inc. of Bridgewater, Massachusetts, prepare the plans and the documents that accompany the application by TJA Solar. This project we filed early last year, I believe February, March, but with the problems with the health issues and hearing was continued. And then we received extensive review comments from environmental partners. And we had a meeting, a virtual meeting with them to make sure that we understand the contents of the review report. And then we prepared our plans to address those comments. And we received a second round of review from environmental partners on Friday, and we were able to provide some response to that. And I believe they have they've done a pretty good job at reviewing the documents, and so I appreciate the cooperative effort in looking at the documents. One of the things that we did was we revises site plans in order to minimize the impact on riverfront areas, and we provided a more comprehensive alternative analysis. We also expanded our drainage report. What I want to point out here is that the stormwater management that we have put together, it's very unique in the sense that we are not directing runoff to any wetlands resources. And we are providing the requisite buffer zone that the commission would like to see, normally would like to see relative to BVW, bordering vegetated wetlands, as well as and the project outline. We provided a couple of the items that are of interest to the CONCOM, the groundwater mounting calculations, which we did. We conducted several subsurface investigation with test pits documenting groundwater, and we did those calculations. EP did come back. I think one thing that will be relevant to the CONCOM is the issue of TSS removal, which is basically total suspended solids. We offer the comment that the fact is that we don't have impervious paved areas in terms of roof areas or that will generate any impact consistent with the methodology that DEP pointed out. However, environmental partners did respond that yes, normally that will be the case, but there's still a little bit of pads that we have for our units. But I will suggest that that is correct. And given the size of the pads and the expansive drainage areas that we have provided, the surface area that we have in these drainage areas are more than adequate to accommodate the total suspended solids. And then we have a recharge. There will not be any off-site runoff that could impair any streams or any abutting properties or a discharge into BVW. So with that, I will suggest that we more than meet what the requirements will be. And also the O&M that we'll have, the ongoing maintenance, operational maintenance that we will have will adequately address those issues. So I do believe, and I'm confident that what we've done is satisfactory. And then, but I wouldn't speak for environmental partners. That's why you have Maria here, and she's capable and able to address the issues that are standing. And I think they've done a pretty good job at reviewing it. And so I'll leave it at that. But I think the project is good. It received their good reviews, and I believe we responded substantively to those review comments.
Okay, thank you, Azu. And again, thank you for patience with each other and working with each other. So, Maria, I'm reading the last review. I think it was the 25th, right, today?
Yep, so we submitted a letter on March 25th, and then this afternoon, Azu submitted those mounting calculations. We responded by email to those. I'm not sure if Victoria had time to send that out to the commission because that was later this afternoon.
Right.
No, I didn't.
So, no, and that's because Victoria had to leave today at what, 1 o'clock. So,
Okay.
That's probably why this last minute. And again, appreciate working with this time sensitive stuff. So, are you in agreement that basically the only outstanding item at this point in time is discussion relative to the TSS removal?
That is correct. We do have some, similar to the other solar projects, we have some recommended conditions of approval.
Yeah,
I can
for
close off if you'd like, but
yeah, why don't you, for the conditions of approval, they do look largely the same as the prior one, but why don't we just read them off,
Yep.
please.
Okay, so for 67 Chase Road, our recommended conditions of approval are related to the Massachusetts Stormwater Standards 8, 9, and 10. They're to provide the stormwater pollution prevention plan and submit the operation and maintenance reports in accordance with the town's MS4 permit and submit the illicit discharge statement. One of the different ones on this project is the applicant is proposing the infiltration basins within the solar arrays, within like the actual footprint of them. So we have made a recommendation to allow that if the applicant like ropes off or fences off that area and requires the use of lightweight earth moving equipment for any work within the infiltration basins. And the purpose of that is just to keep the any like heavy equipment off of those areas so that the infiltration capacity remains the same.
Okay. And is that throughout construction or in perpetuity?
Throughout construction, I mean, ideally in perpetuity, but if they like a lawnmower would be fine to run across those. It's just like,
Sure. I think we all understand, right, that,
yeah,
you know, you're basing your drainage on certain site conditions. You bring in heavy equipment to run over those sites, especially when they're at, you know, closer to finished grade, you're going to compact that and it may lose some of its ability.
correct.
So right. Azu, as the applicant's representative, do you take exception to any of those conditions? Do you have an opportunity to read the response, and do you take exception to any of those conditions?
Well, knows the beauty of what we do, Mr. Chairman and Concom members. I don't like being a hypocrite, and that is the reason I say that is those are the type of recommendations that I would make if I were doing the review for my community and a couple other communities that were working. So it would be hypocritical of me to take exception to them.
All right, excellent. I appreciate that. So the only outstanding item that I can see, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is there's discussion relative to percentage TSS removal and whether certain parts of the regulation apply. And so I know I'm reading it, and I'm probably not doing a very good job of explaining it. So you're supposed to get 80% TSS removal, but that's based on impervious material. There's very little impervious material if I'm reading the responses correctly.
Correct.
Right. And so you're asking for an exception to not have to do the drainage calculations based on the TSS removal for just the concrete pads that are associated with the whatever limited infrastructure on site, correct?
That is correct. And it's not an arbitrary statement only because of the size of the project and the grass area and the surface area of the drainage basins and the swales that provide filtration anywhere. So the reason is that we don't have a structural BMP. So, for example, like a catch basin or outflow. So that's for that reason. I think what we've done here is, in my mind, professionally acceptable.
And so it's what I'm going to put into layman's terms. The swales that you have in the detention pond provide TSS removal to a certain degree, but may not meet the 80%, but you're not putting any water off site, it's staying on site. And any silt or sediment that does end up in the detention basins, you will take care of that in your O&M.
That is correct.
All right. So even though there's a bunch more fancy words in these responses, I guess I got the gist of it.
Well, we get paid by fancy words, so I try to pal it up.
Yeah, it's my job to make heads or tails of them. Our job
That's
to
right.
make heads or tails of them. All right. So Maria, is what I stated, that's pretty much accurate?
That is
What the
correct.
contention is?
The reason
Okay.
that we've left it open is because other solar projects that we have reviewed for the town have provided these calculations and have met the requirements. But that being said, we do understand that each project is a little different. So we just wanted to
Correct.
bring it to the board's attention, or to the commission's attention, and
No, you did the right thing, Maria. That's what you're supposed to do. So, and it's up to us to. Well, let me just ask this: you guys are both professional engineers. Do you think it would, given the size of these concrete pads and how small they are, and then the distances that they would, do you think the calculation would make or break this project? Is what I'm getting at. Do you think? I mean, is that going to put in a situation where it can't meet because they put those calculations in there, or is it just simply we didn't get the calculations? I'll ask either one of you. Azu, either one of you want to answer that for him?
Yes, it's just that you didn't get the calculation, but again, it's specific design, and I would concur with Maria in depending on some of the projects like the one that you had previously that are even less, much closer to the wetlands. The beauty of this one here is we're not providing any discharge to any wetlands. We don't have an overflow or any structural BMPs that will impair any water resource or direct runoff to an abutting property. So, and it will be a question of a quick exercise. And that, so I don't feel, and I've done this too, as doing a review, I look at a project and the merits of the project, and then go from there. So based on the design of this project, as I would say and submit that what we've done is obviously, well, I've never seen anybody that says that their child is very ugly. So I would say that this project, so based on the fact that this is my baby, I think it's a very well done project.
You haven't met my parents. Making light of the situation, but I think we can all appreciate the fact that of what you're saying, and also appreciate the fact that Maria's being very consistent with her reviews, and she is correct. It's up to the board now to determine how much of a potential impact could this cause. Looking at the actual plans to see where the detention basin is. What's how close would you be to the nearest wetland from there?
About drainage areas? For the drainage areas, I am at least 60, 70 feet from wetlands, and I'm not discharging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I guess that at the end of the day, it's for the board to consider. But again, you're amenable to all the conditions that she's provided.
Oh yeah, I have no. As I said a little while ago, Mr. Chairman, it would be hypocritical of me to be adverse to any of those conditions. So I have no problem with them. Yes, and I very well speak applicant as well.
Okay. This being a public hearing, does anybody from the general public or have any questions or comments? Victoria, you see anybody? No?
No, I don't see anybody.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody from the board have any questions or comments?
I'm all set.
Excellent, thank you. Again, the only thing I think that we need to consider, and again, appreciate the fact that this has been in some sort of permitting or review process for over a year now, for a variety of reasons, but one of them was the extensive peer review that they've gone through. So that being said, I don't want to disagree with Environmental Partners Group But I can also appreciate the fact that given the type of system that's being installed here, I don't personally think that the drainage calculations would change. And I don't think that there would be any significant impact from the pads. And, you know, maybe in the future, Maria, to be honest with you, maybe in the future, it's something that we consider in situations maybe that are closer to this. But again, that would be for the board to discuss, or, you know, on an individual basis with the project. So again, thank you for your hard work.
And we can definitely talk about that at another time for projects going forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, that being said, if there's nobody from the board who has any other questions, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion's made and supported to close the public hearing. There's no further discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. I think we need to condition this the way that the Environmental Partners Group has provided. And like I said, me personally, on the drainage calculations, I've seen enough of these sites to understand that most of the water is infiltrated right there as it falls onto the ground. Some of them do have some runoff, but in those situations, or where they will overflow to wetlands, we do appreciate the fact that Environmental Partners Group will make sure and point out that they need to be held to a little bit of a higher standard. But given the type and construction and that it's all going to be on site and the size of the concrete pads relative to the overall project, I don't think that there's much or would be a significant impact at all. If anybody on the board disagrees with me, or has a comment, I'm open. If not, if there's nothing else that needs to be discussed, then I guess I will entertain a motion to approve the most recent plan set with the aforementioned conditions as provided by Environmental Partners Group relative to stormwater requirements number 8 or standards 8, 9, and 10.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and supported. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French says aye. Kevin Damaris says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Azu. Thank you very much,
Thank-
Maria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the commission. Appreciate your sacrifice. Maria and Maria
Thank you.
are the only two that are getting paid to work. So
Well,
I appreciate-
there's a lot of truth to that, but you don't need
So
to remind us.
I appreciate your devotion. I really, it just speaks to the fact that you hold the interests of the town at heart, and I got to applaud you for that.
We try to do the right thing, Azu. Thank you. Item number 3, I will call back to order a continued notice of intent public hearing. This is off of Chipaway Road in East Freetown. The applicant's Justin Alves, Just Solar LLC. The owner is Chipaway Corporation. Representative is Andy Sargent or Azu. Engineering, ET Engineering Enterprise, and the solar panel installation and related infrastructure work. So I've called that public hearing back to order. Again, you can follow along on the town's website, freetownma.gov, Conservation Commission under the current filings. Azu, I'm assuming you're here to make a presentation for that also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for indulging me. Again, for the record, Zoe Teniru, registered engineer and land surveyor in Massachusetts, representing ET Engineering Enterprises, Inc., the firm that prepared the documents for this project, as well as representing Just Solar, the applicant. Mr. Chairman, similar to what we because this project here is actually side by side next to and adjacent to the one that you just heard. And the issues are identical. And I believe we addressed the comments provided by EP, and the design of this project is again identical, other than the name and the shape. I think we've addressed their comments. Similarly, we have the outstanding issue relative to the concrete pads for the inverter and transformer. But this project is very, very, very significant. And we have 6 drainage areas that we have provided. And we did the groundwater mounting calculations. We did a substantial test pits at each and every one of those consistent with the DEP regulations. And so with that, I'm home, and I want to pretend that I listened to my wife. She told me to be very brief and stop listening to myself talk. So I will pretend that I will pretend I'm heeding that admonition. So I'll stop.
All right. So Maria, do you, and I've read the peer review, and it would seem that it's very consistent with the prior one, in that they're making the same argument relative to the TSS removal, and it would appear that you have suggested the same conditions relative to the stormwater standards 8, 9, and 10.
That is correct. And the same condition of approval with the infiltration basins. We recommend roping those off and using light.
Relative to the construction and roping it off, right? And keep it, yeah, okay. Okay. Does anybody from the general public have any questions, comments, or concerns relative to this project? Okay. Hearing none. Anybody from the board? Before we close the public hearing? I mean, we could talk about it afterwards, but we... All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
And support to close the public hearing for the off Chipaway Road solar project. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Maris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. Again, second verse, same as the first. This has gone through several layers and levels of peer review to get to this point. And I will say that those standards 8, 9, and 10 typically are conditioned either through Concom or Planning Board on oftentimes. So that's a pretty standard condition that we have been issuing. The only outstanding item again is relative to the TSS removal calculations as it pertains to the concrete pads. And again, I think my sentiments are the same as the prior project. That given its size, given that they're not, and again, Azu, to clarify, right, we're not discharging into a wetland.
Zero.
All right, and okay. So I think the same conditions exist. Not to diminish EPG's pointing it out, but I think when we look at specific sites, you know, I think we can oftentimes utilize our discretion. So if there's no other comments or questions from the board, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the most recent plan set submitted, revised plans, and with the aforementioned conditions relative to stormwater standards 8, 9, and 10, the infiltration basin, also construction standards relative to roping it off.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made, supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Again, thank you, Maria. I know you guys have been working on this hard in the zoo. We do appreciate your efforts on this. And I will say, much like the other one too, just folks know we're down a clerk on the Concom side. So Victoria has been gracious enough to be helping us out on that. So if you could just, we have a planning board meeting tomorrow night, which is her real job. So it may be a few days before we get the documents all put together and ready for public consumption, okay?
Not a problem at all. Not a problem. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you for your
Thank you
diligence.
very much, Azu.
Okay. And thank you, Maria. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night now.
You
also.
too.
Okay.
All right. Okay, next item on our agenda is item number 4. This is a continued notice of intent for 43 Water Street. I will call this public hearing back to order. The owner applicant, Deborah Petty, the representative is Steve Giosa of SciTech. Scope of work is construction and installation of a 95-foot-long fixed dock with associated gangway and float system and FEMA flood zone AE. The applicant also proposed to eradicate the existing phragmites on the property. Just so everybody knows, phragmites are an invasive species. They look a little bit like cat nine tails, but when they take over, they really do a number. So I'll call that public hearing back to order. Do we have the representative from SciTech here?
I don't see Steve on. He did say he was going to be here, but I don't see him.
Okay. Hold on. That's interesting. Well, then I guess we will have to move on to the next item. We won't continue it. We won't continue this notice of intent until if we get through our items and we haven't made contact with SciTech, then we'll have to continue it to our next meeting. So,
Okay.
all right, cool. So then we'll move on to item number 5. This is a continued notice of intent public hearing for 0 Locust Street and 0 George D. Williams lot. The applicant is Charles Spilatus. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Freetown East PV 1 LLC. Owners David Magna, Capital Funding Services LLC. Representative Sarah Ebar from Vanessa Hangen and Rustlin Inc. And scope of work is proposed 2-lot subdivision. Again, to follow along, you can go on our town's website and go into Conservation Commission current filings, and you will see the proposed plans that we are talking about now. So we have Sarah here.
No, this is Christopher Wagner from VHB. I'm a senior environmental scientist for the project. And I also have Taylor Donovan with me. She's one of the environmental scientists in our group as well. And Jocelyn Gambone is here as well. She's one of the site civil engineers who worked on the project. So we're all here basically representing the project, and we'll be able to, Taylor's going to give a little presentation on the project itself, and then we'll all be available to answer questions if the commission has any afterward.
Sure. And thank you for being here. Has this gone through any type of peer review yet?
I don't believe it has started yet, but Victoria can correct me if that's wrong.
No peer review has started yet. I believe we left off as we were going to wait for site plan review to be filed with the planning board after their Form C to be able to do the
Okay.
peer review concurrently.
Okay. Okay. So if you would like to, typically this is how we do it, right? You make your presentation. There may be general interest from the public or questions from the board. It goes off for peer review. You've heard how that goes, and then hopefully it gets worked out to the point where there may be little to no outstanding items going forward. That's how typically we do it here in Freetown. If you'd like, feel free to make your presentation. Again, you can follow along with the plan set on town's website.
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Taylor.
So I was planning to share my screen, but it does say that it's disabled. So I don't know if Victoria, you can allow that or,
Okay, should be all set
Go
now.
ahead.
great, thank you.
If Taylor, excuse me, I'm sorry, if you could, again, just when you do it, state your name for the record. If you could just refer to what plan sheet that you are showing on there, because some of us are not screen sharing. We're utilizing the plans that have been sent to us on the website. So if you could just do that, that would be great.
Sure, let me just pull up the plan set so I can do that for you. So for the record, my name is Taylor Donovan. I'm an environmental scientist with VHB, and we're here to share our presentation for the proposed large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation. The project is located at 0 Locust Street and 0 George D. Williams Lot. As Chris mentioned, also Chris and Jocelyn are online to answer questions.
Excellent, thank you.
So in red, you can see the project site. It's 2 parcels, the 0 Locust Street and George D. Williams Lot to the south. It's 53 acres approximately and currently undeveloped forested land. And this is a general overview of the project plan, and this would be located on sheet C 2.0 of the plan set. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. We just would like to point out that the wetland lines were the subject of an order of resource area delineation, which was previously approved by the commission, but the wetland lines were verified by VHB staff previously. So we're proposing 2 solar arrays. You can see one in the top right corner and then another to the left. And there are 3 wetland systems on the site. General project features include 24.6 acres of the photovoltaic array, 6 proposed stormwater basins, an upgraded wetland crossing, which is located here, a gravel access road throughout, and perimeter fencing. And in general, this is some of the proposed work: vegetation clearing and grading, other earthwork, constructing the stormwater basins and subsurface drainage, constructing the new wetland crossing and a wetland mitigation area, installing utilities, concrete work pads, and perimeter fence, as well as creating the gravel access road, installing the array, and loaming and seeding after completion of work. So this would be sheet C 3.02 of the plan set, and I've just outlined the 100-foot buffer zone in the dashed red line. So just to give a close-up of the proposed work, which in the buffer zone would include some clearing and grading, earthwork, constructing the basins, the perimeter fence, and the access road. Just like to highlight that throughout the site, with the exception of the wetland crossing and some areas of the access road approaching the crossing, there's a 50-foot buffer maintained that will include no clearing or other work between the wetland line and that 50-foot buffer.
Thank you.
So this is the northeast corner of the site. This is, as you can see, C 3.03. Similar work in this area with the addition in the bottom left corner of that wetland crossing and the gravel access road. And we'll go into more detail about that on the next slide. So as I mentioned, this is an up-close detail of that crossing. It's currently a 12-inch pipe, which is frequently blocked and undersized. And we're proposing a 6-foot wide by 4-foot high box culvert. And there will be 2-foot embedment at the bottom of that culvert. These green dashed lines are the wetland lines. So you can see there's some permanent and some temporary impacts. And to mitigate for the permanent impacts, we're proposing this 150 square foot mitigation area, which is located adjacent to the existing wetland. And then just to continue.
When you say I'm sorry, Taylor, you say mitigation, you mean replication?
Yes, the replication area. Thank you. So just to continue, this is additional sheet from the plan set C 3.04. Similar work as previously mentioned in the buffer zone. And this is C 3.01. It's the southernmost portion of the site, and similar work in this area.
Okay. And so it's your intent to leave a 50-foot no touch, like nothing,
Yes.
right? You're not going to go in, okay?
Yep. So with the site layout, with the exception of this area here, where obviously we're closer to the wetlands for the crossing, and this access road, which the access road is, being proposed for the fire department for access, and will not be a highly trafficked roadway. But otherwise, you can see for most of the site, there's a 50-foot area that, there won't be any clearing or other activity proposed.
Okay. I see obviously you've got a series of infiltration basins or detention basins on site. Obviously, you know that drainage calculations are going to be looked at and relative to the Stormwater Act there and standards. So I'm assuming that you've done the work to try to meet those, correct?
Yes, I have a slide on the stormwater.
Oh, okay. Probably better for Maria to see that than me, but so. Okay, so construction relative. So the impact will be at the crossing.
Yes.
You're 150 feet, and you're replicating 1-to-1.
It's greater than 1-to-1. So there's 125 square feet of permanent impact. It's kind of hard to see here, but it's these this area with the dots, and then the hatched area, that's the temporary impact. So there's 525 square feet of temporary impact, and this is all a result of upgrading the culvert and the crossing to accommodate the roadway. And
currently there's a 12-inch pipe. You're saying you're going to replace that with a 4x6 opening box culvert?
Yes.
You said it's embedded to 2 feet?
Yes. So the opening will be 2 feet.
Right. Yeah, and you'll maintain the 2 feet, because that's kind of where I was going with this. Is I know that DEP and I know that we like to see natural sediment at the bottom of these things for that continuation, so it's not just animal and plant life will utilize it.
Yes.
So I guess the next question is, and obviously, I'm assuming EPG would look at this, but we've determined that you have a suitable base at that depth to place this box culvert.
Yes, there was a culvert replacement analysis conducted, which was included as part of the notice of intent application.
Okay.
So I do just have.
Like I said. No, go ahead, please.
I just have a couple more slides. I was going to say I can go through, and then we can definitely answer additional questions. So this just summarizes kind of everything we've talked about so far. And yes, the replication area will be slightly greater than 1-to-1 with 150 square feet proposed. Mitigation measures include the erosion and sedimentation control plan, which includes a number of features shown on the screen here and included in the plan set. The wetland replication area, as well as the proposed loam and seed after completion of the project throughout the array areas. So just some details for the replication area. Let me get the page number for you. This information can be found on sheet C 4.01. And just where you're proposing 5 shrub plantings, as well as the New England wet mix seed mix for that 150 square foot area.
Okay.
For stormwater management, we do not have an increase in impervious surface, or I should say it was noted as de minimis for those concrete areas. There's a decrease in peak discharge rates, as you can see in the table on the screen here, and we are proposing 6 detention basins due to the high groundwater at the site and low infiltration. And Jocelyn can speak more to this. And we do have a full stormwater management report, which was also included as part of the application. Just a simple overview of the culvert analysis. You can see how we meet or how we line up with the stream crossing standards in this table 5 at the top. We don't meet the openness of greater than 0.82, but as the existing openness is 0.07 and we are proposing 0.6, it's a great increase. Our embedment is the 2 feet, so we meet the standards there. And then the bottom left, you can see a photo of the existing crossing. So water level is very high, it's very undersized. And then in the bottom right is the detail for that culvert. Just to review how we meet the Wetlands Protection Act regulations for bank, it's temporary impact, but it will increase the stability, water carrying capacity, and habitat potential of the intermittent stream. And for the BBW, our replacement area is greater than the lost area. As you saw, the replication area is proposed adjacent to the existing system, so we don't anticipate any issues with a hydraulic connection, and we are proposing those native plantings in the replication area. And that is the end of my presentation, so we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Sure. Sounds like you've done a thorough job so far, and like I said, Environmental Partners Group will undoubtedly keep you on your toes to make sure that we're doing the best we can here. So I just have a statement relative, and I give this speech every time somebody wants to do a replication. Granted, this is only 150 square feet, right? We're talking about 5 sheets of plywood, somewhere around there. Typically, you would excavate the replication area down to the proper elevation. You would then remove whatever wetland soil and sediment from the impact area, utilize that in that area rather than trying to bring in soils that will try to best match. This oftentimes will have a better success rate relative to replication. It'll have all the natural tubers and bugs and everything else that is indigenous, so to speak, to that area. And we do find that we've had good success when people have used those means and methodology. So you don't necessarily have to do it that way. We would encourage you to do it that way. You will be clearing trees on site, obviously, right?
Yes.
Will they be logged off site? Will the stumps be removed, or will those be in a tub grinder and ground down, or some sort of grinding machine and ground down?
Chris, I don't know, I guess if you can speak to that.
That's actually a good question. I don't know actually what the contractor who will be doing the work is proposing for that. If the commission has a requirement that they would put in a condition, I'm sure that
So no, it's not a requirement, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
It's not a condition or a requirement. What we've often found, again, useful to utilize is if you are going to utilize or do those grindings, rather than have an increased truck traffic, taking them off site or what have you, and again, taking those native materials off site. We encourage people to use them for a siltation berm. You rather than silt fence, which requires a bunch of maintenance and oftentimes ends up in the environment anyway, or hay bales where you're bringing in invasive species, particularly or potentially, that again requires increased maintenance of getting materials onto the site, bringing that in. We've recommended in the past that where applicable, and if it fits into the construction project, to utilize that. You have the material on site. It's native to the area. It works really well with mitigating siltation. And if you keep a stockpile on site, if you notice a place that's gotten low or what have you, you can just go over the stockpile, put it back on there. And over time, it decomposes, so to speak. And I think it's, at the end of the day, it's an overall better for the environment. I don't know if anybody has a counter to that, but we've seen it used pretty successfully here in town. And just, we offer that up as an alternative to your typical silt fence, silt sock, hay bales, that kind of thing. Because again, sometimes you can bring in an invasive species with those things,
Right.
and they can be difficult sometimes to maintain.
Yeah.
So just something for you to consider. I don't know, and I didn't ask what you are proposing to utilize for siltation control.
We have, I mean, typically we will employ either compost filter tube or in conjunction with silt fencing. Sometimes alone if the grades are not very challenging, but typically it's that combination. But this is good to know that this is an option to do this in. You're saying in lieu of that, right? Instead of.
That's correct.
That.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And I think we've seen it on a number of projects here in town, and I'm told that other towns or cities may utilize it. I have not heard anything negative about that to date. And I can tell you that it does work remarkably well. It's a lot easier. You got that, like I said, you've got that material on site. And if you can utilize it that way, and it almost provides for an immediate siltation control during construction, right? They're going to grind that stuff. You immediately put it out. You're not trying to key in a silt fence. You're not worried that your 8 inches of silt sock or whatever you're proposing is not now compressed down to 6 inches or 4 inches. So you have an overtopping event. So it's something that we say, hey, if you want to, go ahead and do it.
Great. Okay. That's good. That's great. That's good to know.
Perfect. And again, I know I've asked this once already, but the 50-foot paving, we're not going in there lopping off the tops of trees. That's 50 foot. That is set back enough. The sun, the angle of the sun is such that you can leave 50 foot no touch and it does not impact your project.
That's my understanding, is that's our proposal, and we have, we've modeled it, utilizing that as our guiding yardstick, with the exception, like Taylor mentioned, with the exception of those areas where we obviously, have impacts at the crossing and near the crossing. But yeah. Right. And again, to reiterate, this is an existing old woods road with a crossing. I mean, the culvert wasn't there put accidentally, right? So it's an old farm cart path. All right. Is there anybody here from the general public that have any questions? Okay. Again, keeping in mind, we're going to send this out for peer review. Now, when are you due to see the planning board? I believe it's tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Wait till you meet that guy. We're going to start the peer review, so we can start the peer review now. Victoria, have we received the check for the peer review?
No, we have not.
How quickly do you folks think you can get peer review check over to us so we can start this process for you?
But we can do that this week for sure.
Perfect. All right. I think it's typically $5,000 to start. And again, I know Victoria touched on it earlier. What we try to do, we utilize Environmental Partners Group for both site plan review and for the conservation review. And and so they will be reviewing it concurrently for both. Obviously, if you've met the burden on one or the other, we can move forward with either permit. Oftentimes it's the Conservation Commission that you can satisfy quicker because we're limited to the Wetlands Protection Act. But we try to do it so we're not Concom's not making you change a plan and you think you're all right, and then planning board makes you change a plan and then you think you're, and it's back and forth. This way, it's more homogeneous, I think, the review. So if you can get a check over to us, we can initiate peer review through Environmental Partners Group, and we can get moving on that for you.
And who should it be made out to? To Environmental
Well,
Partners
I'd
Group?
love for it made out to, no, I'd love for it to be made out to me, but we're gonna do it to the town of Freetown.
Okay,
Yeah, just town of Freetown. What we do is we set up an engineering review account. It gets deposited. As the bills come in, we pay them. If funds get low, you will either be notified by Environmental Partners Group directly, or typically it will come from our office. We encourage the applicants, engineers, and EPG to communicate directly with each other. You may want to CC us on certain things, but the reliance on third party to forward information and all, it's tedious and oftentimes can lead to issues.
hmm
So we would encourage the applicant and Environmental Partners Group to talk and discuss things directly and communicate directly.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Does anybody from the board have any questions?
I'm
Okay.
all set.
Perfect. Again, Maria, you're still with us, I imagine, so we're going to be sending this out for review. Up to you
Sounds
folks.
good.
And again, keeping in mind, the wetland delineation has been approved through an ORAD or an ANRAD with our board. If you need any of that paperwork, we could certainly provide that to you. And then you guys can do your thing.
That sounds good, Kevin.
So-
I think we do have the ANRAD on file from 2016, so
Oh,
we
see
should be
that?
all.
You're always a step ahead, Maria. That's what I like about you guys. So, sometimes it does. Peer review can take a little bit of time, especially when it's reviewed for both parties. I don't know, and I don't want to promise for Environmental Partners Group. Our next meeting, Victoria, is in 2 weeks, correct?
Yes,
The 11th, is it?
correct.
All right. I don't know, Maria, if I'm putting you on the spot, but should we continue this till the 11th, or should we continue it to 2 meetings from now?
I cannot make any guarantees for the 11th, but I'll leave that up to the applicant if they want to try that.
Sure. I mean, there's really no harm in continuing to the 11th. If we're not in a place where we are able to move forward, then we can just continue it again at that point.
That is correct. That is
Yeah.
correct. That was going to be my recommendation, but again, I did not want to put anybody knowingly on the spot. That's all.
Sure.
So I think you've heard Maria in her own way say there's no guarantees, but they're going to try, right? So, and I know that they do. So that being said, if there's no other questions from the board or comments from public, or I know you've brought multiple people with you guys. If there's anybody that didn't speak and wants to say something, that's fine too. If not, we can just move to continue this to the 11th and start the peer review.
Great.
Oh, okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for the proposed large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation at, now I'm going to forget, 49.01 and lot 43.0, the low trustee irrevocable trust. And was it the Williams lot? Is that what it was?
Yes.
The name of it. Yeah, the Williams lot. Yep. To April 11th, thought via Zoom.
Motion made.
Seconded.
Motion made and supported. There's no further discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, folks. Again, thank you for your time, and look forward to working with you guys going in the future.
Thanks very
And as
much.
soon as we get
Appreciate it.
that, you're welcome. As soon as we get that check, we'll let EPG know and they can start their review.
Great. Thanks.
All right. You're welcome, sir.
Good night.
Have a good night, all. So back to item number 4, I've already called this city notice of intent to order previously. This is for 43 Water Street. This is for the construction of a dock and Phragmites eradication. Do we have somebody here from SciTech?
I don't see anybody, Kevin.
Ouch. Okay. Then if there's nobody here, then I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to April 11th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
Motion made.
Seconded.
Motion made, supported. There's no further discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Victoria, please reach out to them tomorrow if you could. I know you're going to be busy with planning board stuff, just to see if something happened. I'd hate like heck for something to have happened.
Okay.
All right, next on our agenda, Environmental Partners Group sent us, it's a renewal contract. It goes to the Water Department, Sewer Commission, Planning, Concom, TBA, Stormwater. Each individual board that they work for has to vote to approve or to sign the contract. It's all subject to selectmen review and signature anyway. So if anybody has any comments on it, if not, I'll entertain a motion to sign the contract.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Motion made, supported to review, endorse and recommend for selectmen's approval, Environmental Partners Group contract. There's no further discussion on the motion. Hearing none, signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. Item number 7, we have review open space consultant memo warrant articles. Victoria, what is this about?
Oh, sorry, I was
Good.
muted. So I'm just gonna pull it up. So this is about Mike, our open space consultant, sent us memo over last week. The Conservation Commission considered 2 potential warrant articles that were initially seen favorably. For want of appropriate timing, they were held back. He now recommends these articles be considered for the 2022 annual town meeting as the timing is better. So one of them was to request rollback tax funding for the Conservation Land Fund. One proposal last fall was to seek to have rollback tax revenue appropriated to the land fund. This proposal recognized that rollback taxes generally represent open land being slated for development, and that a well-funded land fund would allow the future purchase of open land to protect it from development. At the time, rollback taxes for the prior year were still outstanding, so there was no revenue to appropriate. At this time, rollback taxes assessed in fiscal year 2021 have been paid. So he
Okay.
recommends that we submit an article to seek the appropriation of $49,558.85 to the land fund.
Did he write that article up already?
No, just the memo.
All right, let's have, I don't know how many folks know, obviously it's public. Mike McHugh, who is our assistant assessor, is also our open space consultant
Okay.
for the Conservation Commission appointed by us. There is no pay associated with that. But I think he's found a little nugget within the tax code that would allow for these rollback taxes to, and that's typically when land is taken out of chapter, right? You have to then pay the difference that you haven't paid for the last 5 years. You know, it may be that there's room for discussion that money gets put into something. So I think we should ask him to maybe write up that as an article form, and we can vote on that at our next meeting to provide that to the selectmen. Just so folks know too, Mike will be out this week. Mike's father passed away funeral was today. Bill McHugh, a lot of us knew Bill McHugh, served on the FinCom, was a member of the community for a long time, and I know he'll be missed. So thoughts go out to the family. So when Mike gets back to work next week, we can ask him to maybe write that up, and we can consider them in our next meeting.
Sure. There was one more on here.
Yes, ma'am.
He recommended to update the zoning map to recognize various open space parcels.
Okay. If we can get a map that identifies those areas, I just know that in years past we've done it, or we've attempted to do it on both planning board and Concom side of things to put that. And I think we need to do a better job, or a good job, of scrutinizing where these are and what impact, and getting in touch with the landowners to let them know. So again, maybe Victoria, when he gets back, as part of your planning board land use stuff, you can maybe help, maybe create a map or some odd thing so that we have a better understanding. And then we can come up with a list of property owners so that we could potentially reach out to them to get their feelings on it.
Okay,
And
that
then,
sounds good.
Perfect. All right. So that's great. We'll have those for our next agenda. There's another item I want to make sure before I forget that we put on the next agenda. I don't know that folks have heard that, I have a new job now. So part of that is it can be time consuming during the day, and it's a lot for me to learn. And so in the reasonable future, I don't know when, but I think thought needs to be considered to when I step down. It's been almost 23 years now. And so I put my time in, but I don't want to just leave everybody abruptly. I don't want to leave the Conservation Commission in the lurch. So what I've done is I've put in a request through our budget proposal, and Margaret, you'll see this in your role on the FinCom, for a part-time conservation agent. In fairness to everybody on the board, things are getting very, very technical nowadays. There's a lot of legwork and groundwork that goes into this that we would be, I think, remiss if we didn't at least consider hiring somebody to oversee these proposals, these applications, to basically do what I've been trying to do as best as I could, but understanding that I'm not a professional that's getting paid to do it during the day. And so there's a lot of coordination that goes on behind the scenes. And I think that that item will be on our next agenda, the budget, and, to discuss just if that's where we want to go. It didn't make this agenda. But in that same vein, we don't have an official vice chairman. I don't think that we've ever voted on a vice chairman. I will, in fairness to everybody, I've always just thought of Charlie as the vice chairman because, well, he's been there the longest and he's got a good handle on things, and he's been involved with the town, and he can run a meeting when I'm not there. And I'm sure, Margaret, you could do a bang up job too. So I think on our next agenda, we will just put the discussion of conservation agent and discussion relative to voting on and appointing a vice chairman for the Conservation Commission. We can have those things. And then the third thing, if we can get that map and the 2 warrant articles written up for consideration, then we can tackle all those 3 things. So I hope I didn't just throw you into the fire there, Charlie, but like I said, I always thought you were the vice chairman. We always had one on planning board. I just assumed that you were, and well, I'll take the hit on that. As a chairman, I should have known that we didn't have one. So I apologize.
No problem. Maria, pardon me, not Maria.
Margaret.
Victoria.
Yes.
Could you send me the documents that Mike has formulated and so forth, just so I have them, so I can go over them? I'd like to go over them, get the information, see it in writing, so to speak.
Oh, the open space memo, I emailed that out when I confirmed attendance. I emailed it, so it was in with all the minutes and stuff and all those attachments.
Yeah, but I think I disposed of it. I couldn't retrieve it. I checked my trash also. I didn't see it there.
Oh, no worries. I'll resend it.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
All right, excellent. Item number 8 on our agenda, we have a refund for 81 Middleborough Road. This is for Mr. Nasser. This is for an ANRAD. They did a wetland peer review. They provided us with peer review money. So I would just entertain, and this is what's left over. They've had the peer review. I would entertain a motion to refund the amount as provided by the treasurer's office.
So moved.
second,
Motion made and supported. No further discussion on the motion. Hearing none. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Aye. Margaret French.
aye.
Aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. We have item number 9. This is for minutes for February 7th, February 28th, and March 14th. I have no problem with the minutes. I don't know if anybody's else had a chance to review them. If you have, then I'll entertain a motion to approve them, unless you have changes.
Kevin, I think there might be a little issue since I was not present. I do not believe for the 2 February meetings.
Yeah. Well, Margaret, you were, right?
I was there and I thought the minutes were up to date.
Along with the minutes then. Perfect. So at this case, it's all we need is a majority of the members that are here. So obviously Margaret and I can vote on it. If you feel you want to abstain from voting on it, that's fine. Do you want to do them individually, Charlie, or do you want me to just do them as a whole?
Why don't you do them individually, just so I can abstain on the 2 February?
Which ones weren't you at?
February 2nd and February 7th, February 8th.
Okay.
I know.
I'll entertain. So I'll do those first, and then I'll do the last one individual. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plans. Excuse me, honest to God, approve the minutes for February 7th, 2022, and February 28th, 2022. I need that motion, Margaret.
I make that motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing
No.
none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret French, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Charlie Sullivan,
Abstain.
abstain. Charlie Sullivan abstains. Motion carries 2 votes of majority. The last minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for March 14th, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion being supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Excuse me. Margaret French, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 10, any other business to properly come before the Conservation Commission? At approximately 5 minutes before this afternoon, I was approached by Margaret, who had a very good question for me. What are they doing over at a location on County Road? I had to politely say, I have been out of town all week. I had no idea. So Margaret, you had pointed out that there was a subject property on the, and Charlie, you may recognize this property. It's just about on the Lakeville line on County Road as you're heading north. It was an old
The
abandoned,
old
what did you say it
Mitchell
was?
School. The old Mitchell store.
Store.
Yep.
It's been an abandoned derelict property. God, so it got to be over 20 years, if not longer. Margaret said to me today that they had started knocking it down, which was a good thing, but they may in fact have been working out beyond the previously cleared area, and there was concern relative to wetlands there. So I will be going out at some point in time in the next day or two. I would encourage anybody else to do that. I will be looking to see if there are wetlands using our GIS. I will, if it's not myself, maybe Victoria will reach out to the property owner to see, what's going on. And so I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Margaret, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, it's, they're clearing and there is a telephone pole or electrical pole a little further in. It must have been like to the back of the building or something, but they're clearing behind that pole also.
Okay. All right. So I will go by at some point in time tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I have to be on Brayley Road at 7:30, so maybe even before that. And then I will report back to Victoria and I'll have her send an email letting you know how I made out.
Okay, thanks.
Okay? Anything else, folks? All right. I do appreciate you guys tonight. A little bit of a long one, but we knocked some things off, so that's great. All right. Everybody's favorite motion. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Aye. Kevin Demaris says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Again, thank you very much, folks. We will talk to you or see you in a couple weeks, and be safe.
All right, you too, Kevin. Thanks.
Have a
All
good
right,
night,
thanks, guys.
everyone.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah.